Hey B-Man. So I accept your challenge. I have been listening to Baby Mozart every day. One thing you said that really struck me was that each of these songs are iconic to you. You acknowledge that there's a context you have listening to these songs that not everyone has. So it got me thinking about a couple of things. What makes an album iconic? For that matter, what makes an album art? As you know, my favorite album of all time is Pet Sounds. It made a huge impact on me because it was a window not only into Brian Wilson's soul, but into a time and a place where music was changing radically. Without Pet Sounds, there would have been no psychedelic movement. Because of where Pet Sounds fits into the timeline of how young people started to gain their artistic voice in the late 60s, it's one of the most crucial albums ever made. But ultimately that arises from the fact that on its own merits, it's genius. Have you ever taken a jazz theory course? You know how important 2-5-1 chord progressions are in jazz? You know how many 2-5-1s appear in Pet Sounds? It's so genius! And it's really well put together. Like, you brought up the concept of cohesiveness. If you put it on shuffle, it would make no sense. Because it tells a story about young adulthood. Hell, it's downright symphonic. So that brings me back to Baby Mozart. It's symphonic, it's cohesive. Where does it fit into the landscape of children's music? What story does it tell about the human condition? But if it's cohesive, does it need to tell a story about the human condition? But then what's the difference between listening to Baby Mozart and listening to all those compositions in that order, but played by an orchestra? And Brice, the other night I texted you asking if there was anything that I like and you don't, and I brought up Guthrie, and you said that you're not a big fan of him because he's too olden. He was essential for helping me get through my senior year. When I was going through senioritis, I would listen to songs like Going Down the Road Feeling Bad and think about how much I wanted to go somewhere where the climate fit my clothes. I would listen to songs like This Land Is Your Land and Union Made and think about not only how special it is to be an American, but how frustrating it is to deal with the paradoxes of being an American. Like, how do you reconcile wanting your individual rights with living with people in a community? Does Baby Einstein make you ask big questions? Does music have to have you ask big questions? And then I think about the one thing that I really enjoy that not a lot of other people really do, and that is the fine lost art of blues harmonica. Now, I started playing it just because I thought it sounded really cool. It touched something in me on a level that was more raw than the way Pet Sounds affected me. But I also knew that not everyone thinks of that the same way. Like, what do you think about when I say the word harmonica? You probably think of cowboys, hobos, or prisoners, right? But I don't think of it like that. I think of catharsis. I think about how much it sounds like the human voice. And when I'm feeling lonely or frustrated, it's just kind of a comforting sound to listen to. So let's think about an album like, say, Done with the Devil by Jason Ricci. It's not essential in thinking about the social context and evolution of the blues as, say, Pet Sounds is to rock and roll. And it doesn't get me thinking about big questions and philosophical whatevers like Woody Guthrie does. I just really like listening to it. I think I have that same relationship with blues, and particularly blues harp, as you do with Baby Einstein. Not everyone's gonna take it seriously, but we still consider it important art forms. It's iconic to us as individuals. So Brice, even though I might not have the same appreciation for Baby Mozart as you do, I am still willing to listen to it on its own merits. I still can't guarantee that even after listening to it for a month, it's going to get ingrained into my soul. Not for any other reason that it really reminds me of you and makes me miss you a lot. And I imagine that that's probably the same perspective you would have of Jason Ricci. But that's okay. That's the thing about art, is that it touches different people different ways. And if Baby Mozart particularly touches you, then I really have no right to judge that. But until then, I'll just keep listening, and I'll actually remember to record myself this time around. So now I'm already starting to think of a couple albums I can force you to listen to when you need to get punished. I'll see you in Portland.